right, let's talk Deebo, man, because this thing was like people were freaking out on Twitter about it. I didn't even see it until late. Can you explain to people what was going on with this?
So I am actually going to pat myself on the back here. I shouldn't be doing that, but I'm going to pat myself on the back. So the clip comes across. I forget where I first see it. And the way he was on a podcast, 21st in Prime, with Deion Sanders and whoever the guy is that he has on there, which is for Barstool. So the clip comes across as him being asked a question about Jimmy and then talking about, well, you don't need a Hall of Fame pass blocking group all the time. Sometimes you got to make plays on your own. Sometimes you got to man up. That's kind of what Deebo was saying. So at first, when that clip comes across, everyone takes it as Deebo Samuel is talking about he who shall not be named. Me, I sat there and I stood quiet. I didn't tweet anything about it. I just looked at it because usually I would go and just tweet it. Yeah. And with eyes and just saying like, yeah, woo. Pretty quickly, honestly, 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, the unedited clip comes out and he's talking about Russell Wilson. He starts before, I don't like the Seahawks. Way to go, Deebo. We love you, buddy, for that. And then he says, the same things about, Deion basically alludes to the fact that if you have a C on your chest, you shouldn't be asking out. That's not how he's like, it would rub him the wrong way. It would rub, anybody on that roster the wrong way. But when you get into the actual meat of the interview, Deebo's talking about Russell Wilson, about, hey, man, you want good pass blocking, but also you got to make things happen yourself. And the same complaints and the same sort of criticisms that I've come across on Russell Wilson this year was, yes, the pass blocking isn't the best, but you miss reads, you try to play too much backyard football, and then you want to blame them because you're like out of the pocket getting hit. Yeah. If you made your first read, at the right time and got the ball out, you would be fine. But it's just funny how, I don't know, did Barstool cut this video this way? This is the discussion, really. Did Barstool cut the video that way to generate clicks? Did somebody on 49ers Twitter do that? I don't know. I just know that I learned a valuable lesson about, okay, an interview comes out. Maybe I should just sit a little bit and try to figure out, what exactly was all said before I give my opinion.
Okay, so I saw this after everyone explained. Like, I was talking to Vish, and he's like, did you see this? I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I was interviewing Jim Mora, and he was like, okay, so here's what happened. So I knew. You sent it to me, and I saw the clip, and I was watching what Deebo said in response to a question about Russell Wilson, and it was a very leading question from Deion Sanders. Anyway, everything he said, I'm listening to it, and I'm like, every single thing Deebo Samuel's saying also applies to he who must not be named.
I knew you were going to say 10. That, and
number 10.
I don't all the way disagree with you there, but see, that's the thing. That's why what he said was taken and confused.
Because I could see it's so obvious. You're listening to that and you're like, well, he could be talking about his own quarterback, couldn't he? And so that dude had fun with it. But what I'm thinking is, okay, he could be talking about his own quarterback. If he's had these thoughts for Russell Wilson, did they cross his synapses with relation to Jimmy Garoppolo? Has it ever? Or because I see Deebo as one of the brightest guys on the team. He's really, really smart. And although Deion was sort of leading him there, it didn't take much. And Deebo had a lot to say on the subject. And it felt like something he and other senior members of the team might have talked about. I'm just guessing. I'm like, wow, man, this is very specific. And it certainly applies to your team. It certainly applies. I don't know. But I was like, oh, like, wow.
If you take that clip and you just posted what he said, somebody would just say, oh my God, he's talking about, like, he didn't even have to hear the corrupt. You did it. You said it twice. That's twice. We're tied now. 2-2. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if you just took that clip, out of context and you took it away from the entire conversation, it could be, it could allude to that idea. It's just, I'm glad that I was able to stay away from it and then find out really what was all said before I jumped out the window or anything like that and said anything like that. But it's so much to the discussion, that you shouldn't be able to say something like that and have it pulled apart like that and think that, think that people weren't going to take it that way. So, I mean, it's nothing, but the way it was presented in the beginning, it sounded like something.
But the Niners created this situation by not 100% backing their quarterback. They've created like a QAnon situation where it's like everything they do is like, see, boom, proof right there. You see what Deebo said about Russell Wilson? That is proof of what the Niners think of Jimmy Garoppolo right there. It's like, well, yeah, that's actually kind of true. It makes sense.
The other thing too is he says something about guys get injured. You got to keep moving. You believe in your teammates and things like that. And it's just, again, if you take that quote by itself and put it whoo, that looks bad because you're going to just automatically, tie 2 and 2 together to him and the quarterback.
Okay.
But again, listen to the whole thing. He's talking about Russell Wilson. They're talking about Deshaun
Deebo
Watson.
didn't do anything wrong. He was in the right. It's just my mind.